Essospheres. So we're talking about the Essospheres.
Oh yeah, we were by.
Perek Aleph Mishnah Vav. Perek Aleph Mishnah Vav. So we're talking about the Essospheres. And now it's going to switch a little bit. And it's going to talk more, not about the concept, but like what you have to do with them. Like a practice, something that you have to do. Not that the idea. In the Ramban in Mishnah Tess says there's misporam, midosam, b'tzipasam, b'yichudam, ba'alamasam. These are the things that the spheres are. It's going to talk about its numbers and its measurements and to see it, or to observe it. It's yichud, it's unity, and then it's mystery, and then it's going to start speaking about the spheres themselves. So this is talking about tzipiyasam, to look at the spheres. What does it mean to look at the spheres? Tzipiya. So, yeah, we'll see soon what tzipiyah is. But tzipiyah is a type of vision, a type of seeing. Viewing, yeah. Some type of vision. Correct, we'll see soon. So the tzipiyah is going to be a type of looking. So what does it say? That the seeing of it, or its observation of itself, we're not sure what this means yet, is like the vision of a bazak. Bazak is like a barak, like a lightning. A Zion and the Reish are interchangeable, like later the Sefer is going to say, that these letters, Zion, Samach, Reish, Shin, are interchangeable. So bazak, v'tichlasam elam ketz, and when you speak about them, or you speak of, or spoken about in a way of Ratzav going and returning, the spheres are they're drawn to its mimer, to its source, and they bow down to the throne. Okay, let's make this. Just one thing before we continue, I just remembered something. I don't know if it was last week or a few weeks ago. I think it was last week. We were talking about nimna nimnois. Remember talking about this? About the idea of atzmus and nimna nimnois. It's the idea of paradox that can hold paradox. So you're saying that to say, Hashem can make a stone. He can't pick up all these things. That's not nimna nimnois. That's silly. That's just why is that? So someone asked me that l'chura, to say God, Hashem exists, right? Which is one way of saying it. And then to say Hashem doesn't exist. And existence itself, the whole idea of existence is a construct. It's when you say something exists, there's something that's opposite. It doesn't exist. So it's a it's a definition, existence. So who said existence to Hashem is a correct definition? Maybe say that Hashem doesn't exist. Maybe nimna noise is that it's beyond existence and non-existence. So the problem is its language, because we can use the word existence, which is matzi, like in the Rambam's language, right? In the beginning of the Torah, the Rambam writes, Matzah Rishon means he's the Matzah, he's the first existence, and he's Mamsa, he causes all existence to be. So when you say the word existence, does it mean like a definition when I say this thing exists? Does it mean existence like in its form, in its manifestation, in its context, in its relationship to me? That's what I mean? Or does existence mean not existence with a capital, like a big existence, but just existence means that it just exists. So if you say, the Ram writes, Vim yalada she'einu matzoi, in the second halach, Vim yalada she'einu matzoi, ein davar yachol matzis. That if you say that Hashem doesn't exist, nothing else would be existence. So what does it mean, Vim yalada she'einu matzoi? Does it mean that Hashem doesn't exist with a capital E, or doesn't exist with a lower capital? If you say Vim yalada das means if you will think to say, But the way the Rambam writes it, Vimyala das means Zaliyah and das. Aliyah means it's an elevation das. And if you're going to be sophisticated and say, Shu'ein matzoi and davar achar lo matzoi, nothing else can be in existence. When the Rambam is writing that, he's is talking about is Hashem, is it emes? Is there something called Hashem? He's saying if you want to say that Hashem is existence, right, which is a definition, a certain type of definition, then you say Vimyala das she'ein matzoi. Maybe Hashem doesn't have existence. Hashem is. He doesn't have existence. He said if Hashem doesn't have existence, then no existence will be. There wouldn't be any existence. So in order for there to be the existence, there has to be a higher level, the capital E existence. But that's what the Rambam is saying. The Rambam is not saying there is no God. That's kvira. That's you don't have to say that. Then you just close the book. There's no Sefer. There's nothing to continue. That's what it's saying.
Also mean that it wasn't there before now it started existing, that we cannot serve it Hashem because it always was.
Correct. Yeah, that's also even okay. That's the definition question of existence. But even if you say existence means eternally existence, like a kadmon, that it's always existence. But what does existence mean? Existence means that that's I don't know if it's coming out clear. But when you say that, when you say nimna nimnois means you could say Hashem exists and doesn't exist. That you could say. Both exists and doesn't exist. Existence as existence or existence as not existence. But the non-existence also means that Hashem exists. It's existing as non-existence. But to say that Hashem doesn't exist, which means could Hashem make something that's stronger than himself, that's not nimna noise, that's stam kfira. And so that's an important distinction. Because sometimes people get stuck in this world of nimna noise, in this world, I don't know if you do get, but if you get some in this world of atzmos and these type of language, you can start thinking, okay, so then this take all be true. No, some things could be true, some things are just
Are you
clear.
basically talking about syntax there? Like non versus doesn't exist, it's just that in this world
Yes.
it doesn't exist.
Okay, you could say that.
But
Yeah, non-existence.
means beyond existence.
Right, but even philosophically, you can say the word non-existence means non-existence with a capital E, like as expression or existence, something like that.
You can say that the same thing on the part that you're saying it's still emes that Hashem is. You can say that the part of emes as well.
What do you mean?
Might not be emes that Hashem exists because we're still emes is still a definition of something.
Okay, fine, but I agree. But you're still saying there's something. Whatever. I don't want to say the word.
It's never ending.
It's never ending. But there's always a thing. And the moment you say there's nothing or no existence, anything, then okay, so that's just regular kfir. That's straight up kfir. You say there's no boyer. There's no boyer. I get it. So you say Hakadosh Baruch is not the boyer because boyer is the definition. Okay, fine. But there has to be. There is. I don't want to say the word because anytime you say the word, you can say that's the definition.
Maybe it's just like not existent as we are.
No, even that. Even if to say even that. Okay. Anyways, let's go back into Sefer here. Believe it. So what does it say? What is it saying is as follows. That let's talk about Lezer Gumaisa for the Balarkeach. Essospheres. Lima, these Essospheres, these 10 spheres are Matziv Kipparim Ma'avas. Vukalo Moir are Yerd Mashayim Biyams. Ukeherafai no near line. That the Essospheres are these lights. So the spheres are the emanations that come out of the Creator, Kaviyachol. And these lights are very light and quick. And it's like something like a lightning bolt that appears Keherafai near line. It shows up like a Herafai and then it disappears. That's what it's saying, that the spheres themselves are Kimar HaBazak. That the spheres themselves are Kimar HaBazak. Or it says, Kacha Adam, or not or, but also, then it continues, Kacha Adam Aser Liten Daite Behem. Same also, a person should never say that I grasp it. I understand what I'm learning. I grasp it. If you start to speak about them, you should also know that every time you're speaking about it disappears. The moment you say you grasp it, it's infinite. It's part of the infinity. The moment you say you grasp it, you don't have it. Then he says, so this is actually, it's instructions to the person that's learning this book. And it says, that then they prostrate themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You should do the same thing. Or Psad Yugon, it says the same idea. Kein nami kishedaber b'Yetzirah tei masach alecha v'daber hem b'ratz v'shoiv ratza meheres lahachar hilu loshel l'mkayme v'chein l'mar Yetzirah zekasuv meheres lech zachar eruach hareitva kein yirva mahar v'daber Essospheres v'kesem b'shtachim ritzlema oisav g'sev sir mishnah zu choyvel l'shtachim z'l Yetzirah koy loyme reim Hashem l'kenav shtachim l'Hashem k'mo shemara b'zach abazak l'shachim. So it's telling you what you have to do. Now, not only is the spheres, so one way to say is that the spheres themselves are sort of this this flash of light that comes that's emanated from the emanator, and it's Ein Sof. But every time there's like a way for it itself to be revealed, it immediately conceals itself.
It sounds like it's saying also that thought was present, which is impossible.
It's impossible to be present. It's both. No. It's always present and not present at the same time.
The muscle of lightning is very hard.
It's there and it's not there, but it's continuous Gemara Bozak. It's not like the Mara Bozak and it disappears and becomes dark.
What's the shining when it strikes? What's the shine? What is that? What's that?
Okay, so that's why there's a little
Can you say
there's
that
a Torah
the
of.
sun with the clouds flocking over and coming and disappearing and showing?
Okay, fine, still, the question is what happens when it disappears. If you look, there's a Torah from the Magid. So I think it's in the middle of the packet.
We're talking now about is that the sphere, the aspects
Yeah.
have no name.
Yeah,
Hold on.
no names. Blima. It's Ein Sof, which means connected to Ein Sof.
No. It's where the staple is.
There's staples. Kol neshama talaka, or kol neshima talaka. That a person has to praise Hashem with every single breath. Aderech v'yibach nishmas chaim, nafich metoicha nafich. So it says that someone blows, they blow from the inner essence of themselves. L'chol davar yesh Moshe pirush, kin estaref nushar rabina lo'is Moshe. That's neshama. Az Moshe is neshama. Neshama is rabina. V'chayis, this is what I want to say. V'chayis yoyre ba'oilamos mati v'loy mati. The light that comes into this world, the chayis that comes into the world, is the Gur writes the same thing on this Mishnah. That the chayis that comes into this world is yoyre, it comes into this world mati v'loy mati. Why does it come mati v'loy mati? It hovers, it's there and it's not there. And the moment you try to grasp it, it disappears. It's mati v'loy mati. It's touching and not touching. Not that it's not touching, not that it is touching. It's touching and not touching simultaneously. Yes, simultaneously. That's the word. It's ratzav v'shoiv, not ratzav v'shoiv. Not 1 second. It's a ratzav. It's returning, and then next one is shoiv. It's ratzav v'shoiv in the same moment. It's mati v'loy mati. So here's a go. Ki haguf ein yochel sheyeh b'chayis b'yoser. Now, the way it's going to be described is going to be in sequence, because that's the only way logically our mind can think, but it's not in sequence. In sequence, if we say this, mati v'loy mati, how would that look like? It will look. If the chayis, the life force, comes into the person in its full majesty, meaning if there's just a flow downwards completely, what would happen? The vessel, the kli, would break. Too much oil. Okay. Overpowered. Also, the chayis would be so strong, it wouldn't be able to save the guf, so the guf will fall apart. Therefore, the chayis goes in immediately into the body, automatically, and then immediately it retreats. Now, it doesn't mean in our sequence, because we can't understand paradox, we can't understand these two things together at the same time. But in our mind, the way it would work, and that's why the Magids will say it's like breath. It's like inhale, exhale. Okay, so that's a very simple example. But the inhale and exhale is all right. Then you exhale. Okay, so it's not simultaneously. But be'emes, the chayis doesn't come, is not inhale and exhale. The chayis is something that's beyond the inhale, beyond the exhale, which we'll see soon. That's what the whole Sefer Yetzirah is basically saying, right?
Versus these AC alternating current versus DC.
Yeah, okay, fine. But what's the point in the middle? This is what Sefer Yetzirah is already writing. That there's 5 and 5, right? There's 5 spheres and there's 5 spheres. So there's something in the middle that's holding this tension of the opposites. So if you say this is the inhale, this is the life that's coming into the world, that's the outbreath, kaviyachal, the divine outbreath, the chayis alakid is coming into this world. Okay, then there's the chayis that's coming in return, because if the chayis goes too strong, the guf is gonna break apart. If the chayis also doesn't want to be in the guf, the chayis wants to be in mispashas, therefore the guf is gonna fall apart. Then the chayis returns. But the chayis itself, the life force that is coming, is experienced. Let's say it a little different. Is experienced to us in the world of movement in the world of Tnua, in the world of movement, as opposites, as movements. There's a Ratzai and there's a Shuv. There's an inhale and exhale. But the Lashon HaZohar is Mati V'loi Mati. Mati V'loi Mati doesn't mean Mati and then V'loi Mati. Mati V'loi Mati means touching and not touching simultaneously. Because that's the real depth of the truth of what's happening.
There must be some type of vacillation in it.
Well, that's the way we're experiencing. The vacillation is life. In other words, the koyach halaki, let's say it a little different. The koyach halaki, maybe we'll get to the end, we'll figure this out. But the koyach halaki is not tnua. The koyach halaki is not movement. It's beyond tnua. It's an expression. It's atzmos. So the koyach halaki is we'll call ein sof, whatever you want to call it. Something that's beyond what we call movement or vacillation or oscillation. Any type of movement. So when we're experiencing life, we're experiencing the spheres. Or let's say we're having experience of it, or we're experiencing ourselves, we're saying the chayis is a ratzai and there's a shuv. I feel full and I feel empty. I feel chesed and I feel shalom. I feel complete and I feel empty. That's the way the chayis is experienced in my life. But the root of that idea is beyond that. The chayis comes from a place that's beyond that. The chayis is expressed in the place of tenuah, and that's where there's. That's why the Tzemach Tzedek in Derech Mitzvah writes that the shoyrish of zman, the way we experience time, is mati v'loy mati. Because the shoyrish of zman is the seder zman. The Medrash says the zman and the seder zman. So seder zman is not actual the rhythm of time. It's like the place of the rhythm of time. In the place that there's the rhythm of time, which is before there's actually time, and time is man ban, right? So zman is man ban, which means the movement of back and forth. Before the place where there's a rhythm of back and forth, there's a seder that's holding the whole zman. What's that seder hazman? Seder zman is mati v'loy mati. There's like a movement and non-movement. When it drops into our reality and our experiences of it, we're going to see it as a rhythm of past and the future and the present. Moving from the past, moving to the future, which is oscillating, which is movement, which is trua. That's Olam Hazman. But the root of the Olam Hazman has to be in a place which is beyond, and therefore it includes both those movements simultaneously together as whole.
Maybe we can understand from the Brahman stone.
Yeah.
Microscopically, the atoms also move. For us, it looks like it's
Okay, so that's just observation, correct? So on an observation level, you can see that you don't see the movement. But
It's like you're saying that higher than chesed or gevura is a space in between them. Like the
yes,
pairs?
that's what I say. I didn't say this. Sefer said, right? He said that between the bris is going to be the space that holds the 5 and the 5 between the Chamish boys and the Chamish boys is the bris, right? He says that there's 10 spheres, and then it says don't say that it's achad esay. Don't include the 8 sof in the spheres, or it's esa v'loy teshav, esa v'loy echad esay, which is don't include the spheres. Don't say that keser is the highest one, which means that what is holding what is holding the spheres? The spheres is the Ein Sof, but it's not part of the Ein Sof. It's the context or the middle point that's holding everything. In Sefer Yetzirah, like we said a few times, it's building out the system of creation and saying there's rhythms of time, there's rhythms of space, there's movements, right? There's all different types of oimex, things that are happening. There's 5 dimensions, but then there's something that's the highest thing, which is beyond the dimension, that's holding all these dimensions together. That's Ein Sof. So if you say that, what is the creation? What is the world? What is everything? It's really Ein Sof. It's Ein Sof. It's the infinite that's being expressed in all different types of dimensions. But what's holding everything and what's the source of everything is the Ein Sof. Is correct. Okay. Let's look. What is the word sipiyasim? The word sipiyah. So we can learn a few Mara Mekaymis over here. And this one Sefer Zecharis. Huh? Could be. Yeah. Tzipiyah Salishu, yeah. So Tzipiyah, look up Tzaddik inside, but look it over here. Okay, so he says, the first page. Okay. Now, what's the makubal? B'derech ha-makubal. He's talking about the Ma'aser Merkava, Ma'aser Bereishis. The first page. Sefer Zecharis is a tzaddik. So he writes this. Ma'aser Merkava, Ma'aser Merkava. Ha-makubal hu ha'riyah sheroye ba'ayin sichlei bebirur she'in arach bebirur shukein ki l'roye b'chush. What does it mean to be a makubal, or someone that's into Teis HaPnimius, someone that's into the Torah, is someone that sees ba'ayin sichlei, someone that sees with his eyes vision, as if he sees b'chush.
That's the Koach HaMedama, that's exactly what Medama is, the ability to...
Correct. The ain't by the inun mechkari. This doesn't. It's not a philosophical, left brain, logical thing. Rakadei zichcha lev levad shezeu iker tanai nevuah. Aval hachachma, the iker tanai nevuah is the heart, the opening of that heart space. A different type of koyach medama, the power of imagination. Something that's more chushi. Something that's more tangible. We spoke about like the Adam Chav and the Nachash. There is the world of seichel. Seichel is abstract. It's cold. It's intellect. It's detached. Then there's the body, which is the place of the chush, of the chushim. I feel it. It's real. What is the koyach hamadama? The koyach hamadama, the power of imagination, is sort of a hybrid between seichel and chushi. Because what do you do with koyach hamadama? What are you doing with the power of imagination? The power of imagination, you're using your seichel to experience something as if you're experiencing actually real. So when I'm touching something, that's a koyach hachush. I'm chush. Physically, I have a sensation of touching this table. If I'm thinking about the table, just thought about the table, then I'm not actually experiencing the table. What do I do when I imagine the table? If I have a good koyach hachush, I'm actually imagining as if I'm touching it. And it can be as real to me as actually touching it. That's the koyach hamadama. So she'ena rabir shu ki'ilu roye b'chush, as if you're seeing it b'chush, you're actually seeing it literally what you're experiencing. And that comes through the articulation or the opening of the heart space, more the right part of the brain. That's why Chazal say she'ena vu shoyer el chacham. Chazal say, the Gemara says in Shabbos, in the Dharm, that the nevuah is shoyer only on a chacham, that prophecy only rests on the wise. So it doesn't say she'ena chachmi hageremes hanevuah. It doesn't say the chachma causes the nevuah, that causes prophecy. It says, but if you need to be a navi, the only way to be a navi is if you have chachma, but not the chachma causes the nevuah, because chachma has nothing to do with the nevuah. Tonight, it's a part, it's a small little condition. Just like a navi, a prophet has to be strong, has to be wealthy, so he has to be smart. Smart is not the thing. It happens to be, you just have to be rich. Chazal say, with a Kohen Gadol, that you ma'aser him. If he doesn't have money, you give him something you can gain. This comes through the zichach halev. Okay. And then he has derech riyah ke'ein riyah chushes. Then when a person does that, he can actually see the real chushes. Let's go to the next page. It's a long shtickle, but he goes over here.
What changed that today? It's only by Shaitan and Ketana.
What's up, what?
What changed that today? It's only by Shaitan and Ketana.
What, the koyach nevuah? Because they have a lot of chush. They don't.
Because they have an amazing imagination.
They have imagination, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's Zach Lev, yeah. Okay. Page 3, Lamed Aleph, 61 on the left column. He's talking about the Ari. He's talking about the Ari and the different stages in his life. I read the writings of the Arizal, and then he says, "I will call also derech tzipia." That's where the word comes, where I found it. So all his hasagas, this whole Sefer talks about what's Sefer Hasar, what is Soid, what is the secrets of the Torah. But it says derech tzipia ben Hasar. Who wrote kol amar zek derech shoy cheskel cover lo yetzicha el pisan. So therefore, it didn't need a pisan. So it was the derech tzipia. The next page, v'chol ze betzoyfe hamakaver derech tzipia. This is what tzipia means. When you know what Sefer Tzipia means, tzipia means to see this thing as if you're seeing it with. Not with his bonus, not with intelligence. Then he says, "I what Chazal say, you shouldn't intellectually try to understand it because you can't grasp it intellectually. And the whole idea is that you have to do it derech tzipia. Last page is.
We're learning here what not to do.
And we're learning hopefully what to do. Therefore, he says you shouldn't look at svarim that speak intellectually, like philosophical books of Kabbalah. He mentions some svarim that Shar Shamayim, which is a very famous book in Kabbalah, which is interesting. He doesn't like that sefer. Yeah.
That's the one that we did in Spanish, right?
That's correct. It's a Spanish book.
Yeah.
It's a Spanish sefer. Actually, he was a Spaniard. He was a Yeah, it was translated in Lashon Kodesh. Originally, it was written in Spanish, and it's not a book of philosophy, but it's considered actually, But anyways, he doesn't like it. You need someone that actually experienced it. You're talking about, you want to learn Kabbalah, you want to learn Chassidus, you want to learn something. It's not enough to talk about it logically and this, but you have to actually experience it. That's what he says. That's Sapia. It's the Ike Lamaisa. The Ike is Sapia Lamaisa that you have to actually experience. With Be'ez Hashem, we're going to try to figure out what exactly this means. How do you talk about? Oh, it's okay. So it's a nice idea. After Sapia Lamaisa, but how do you do this? How do you Sapia Lamaisa? Okay. So we're going to read 3 Mishnahs hopefully today. Next Mishnah. Essospheres Blima. The Essospheres Blima is what are again? It's like an introduction. The Essospheres, the 10 series Blima. What are they? Not Seifim b'tchilasim, tchilasim b'seifim. First of all, you have to understand that you have to draw the end to the beginning and the beginning to the end. What's the Seifim? So here the Ravid writes the Seifim is Keser Elyon. The Seifim is Keser, which is the first of the 10 spheres, if you don't count the stars, right? The Seifim is Keser. You see the Ravid? Pirush Seifim Keser Elyon. Ki Keser Elyon nika Seifi ilus ha'ilus nika ein sof. B'tchilasim. B'tchilasim b'seifim, which means you have to say that the Seifim, which is the beginning of the spheres, we already talk about a Hagdar. We're talking about a certain definition.
Why is he calling the end the beginning, the end of the side?
What?
He's saying Seifan is Keser Ilah.
Yeah, because B'tchilasim.
Sof of the Ein Sof.
Kaviyachal, yeah, the end of that, yeah, right? The Seifim, which starts to appear to us, which is the Seif, is really connected to the Ein Sof B'tchilasim. B'tchilasim is Seifim. There is no difference, or Seif Ma'aseh Shav Tchila, however you want to say this, is that when we look at the Seifim, we're looking at the end product, right? It's very important to say. We're looking at the end product and we say, this is what it is. This is this particular sphere. This is Hashem's chsadim, or this is a tree, and this is a table. That's the seifim. We should remember that you have to nas seifim b'tchilas, and you have to tie the end to the beginning, which means anytime we see something in this world, we have to right away draw it back into the Ein Sof. V'tchilas has to go back into seifim. Why is it so? Ki shalhev is kshur b'gachelas. It's like a shalhev. It's like a fire that's one with its coal. You can't separate the coal from the fire from the coal. The shalhevis doesn't have a metzias lefnei atzmai. The only metzias, the only existence that a shalhevis has, in the shalhevis' existence is that it's part of the gachelas. It's part of the coal. Now, if you look outside, you see a fire that's projected outside the coal, right? That's the shalhevis. But the metzias is no metzias lefnei atzmai. That's the same thing with this creation. When you look in the world, you see a shalhevis. You'll see that something is alive and something is moving. There's something there. Could you touch it? Like, can you touch Shalhevis? No, the Shalhevis doesn't have a Metzias. The whole Metzias of the whole existence of the Shalhevis is only the Gachelas. So you have to remember the Shalhevis Kishur b'Gachelas. Let's learn a shtickle Maimer over here. Then we'll go back. The Maimer is in Boston Lagan and Tafshin Beis, and it's quoted from the Reb Marash. So this is in Chassidus Chabad. This is a very big conversation about Shalhevis Kishur b'Gachelas. So here's a Maimer. We'll just read it in the Isa b'Sefer Yetzirah. It says in Sefer Yetzirah, the Essospheres same Kishalavis Kishul Bechelas. Very quick, there's Marash. The Marash writes like this: Sheyesim is bein yazim. There's 2 things: Shalheves shebesoicha gechelas, u Shalheves shalagabe gechelas. In the Shalheves itself, it's by the staples in the center. Chav Beis. There's in the fire itself, the fire connected to the coals is a fire that's in the coal, and there's a Shalheves that's hovering on top of the coal. Okay. Hine b'zeh beizin Shalheves shebesoicha gechelas. Hine b'zeh yon. Shalheves shebesoicha gechelas. I'm sorry. Hine Shalheves shalagachelas yicholis gam kivnatzma. The Shalheves, that the fire that's on top of the coal has its own existence. Elish ein ba metzias mamashas. But there's nothing to touch it. You can't touch it. You can't grab it. That's what Chazal say. That's what the Mishnah says in Shabbos. If you take out a Shalheves and carry a fire, so it puts a fire in your finger, and you carry the fire, you didn't carry anything. There's no malashas. You're not carrying anything. There's no metzias. Now it looks like a metzias. It seems like a metzias. It surely hurts like a metzias, but it's not a metzias. The mezeh yoydim beizin dan. Therefore, sheyesh shalheves me'atzmai. The Mishnah says that Amoitzi Shalevis is potter. Is that's because the Mishnah says that you're potter, but there's even a dion. The Mishnah asks, saying that maybe there is a svara, maybe there's an idea that he should be not allowed to take it. But the Mishnah says, so therefore you're potter. That's last spheres. Basically, on Melu, there's Essospheres on a Gezuz Metzilim, Essospheres wie sein Netzel geworden. There's two types of spheres. Remember we talked previously a few times ago. There's the Essospheres when we talked about who? No. Rabbi Azriel of Gerona. Remember there was the Koyach HaGvul in Bilti Balgvul? And the Koyach HaGvul, we said that's what Sefer Kabbalah calls Essospheres HaGnuzas. The 10 spheres that are gonuz, that are hidden within the Ein Sof. That remember, the Tzimtzum only revealed the Koyach HaGvul. But the Koyach HaGvul already, the power of the finitude, of the Kli, of the vessel, already exists Kaviyachal within the Creator. So there was Essospheres HaGnuzas, Matzilim. Essospheres v'zizan Netzel geworden. And then there's Essospheres where they exist in Atzilus. That's the two levels of the Shalavis. The Shalavis, B'sech HaGekeles, Av Shebetech G'yoser, Avak B'shu B'sech HaGekeles, Ein Shom Metzias Shalavis. But even though the fire in the way it exists within the coal is much stronger, but there has no Metzias L'Fiatzmei, there's no existence. It's part of the coal itself. Because Shkein Shem Prat Shalavis. Then Ekshom Metziosei, Kim Rak Metzias HaGekeles. If you look at the coal in itself, all you see is the coal. In the fire of the coal, when the coal is really, really, really burning and it's dark, you don't even see that. You don't see any light that's projecting. That's really when it's really the hottest case, the hottest fire, but the fire is not seen. But you know clearly that's the fire in this gechelis. If you break it open, it's going to be sparks. It's even stronger. That's the way the Essospheres exist in B'matzilim. That's the way the Essospheres exist within Kaviyachol and the Ein Sof. The Mashiach Sham Hurak B'matzel. Asher Yashin Rise being Essospheres and Sol Essospheres B'matzilim. That's it, but they're even stronger there. Achach that's Essospheres have a gam achatz. It's also Kshur by the Essospheres like Nuzes. So that's what he's saying, that even the spheres, the way it appears to us, the way it appears as outside the Gachelas, Kaviyachal, the Gachelas would be the Ein Sof. And the way it appears to us that there's a fire that's emanating from the original source, you should know that the real thing is that the fire is the way it exists in the Gachelas. And there's no Metzias there's no existence of something that's separate from that. That's not Stilas M'Seifim. So that's Stilas means if you always recognize, always return everything back into the original source. Okay. Let's learn the next mission, then we'll understand this. What's the next mission? Essospheres. This is the most important mission, I mean, most important mission, but certainly a very important mission to everything that we're learning. And this gives this mission is very. Let's read it. Essospheres lima. Bloim pichem ledaber v'lipchem alahar. So this is very, very, very interesting. We're just talking about Essospheres, and it's telling us what it is, and it's telling you this. Now it says stop speaking. Because again, this is not talking about the idea, it's telling you how you need to experience the idea. That's what I said, sipiyasam, right? There's a different type of experience. Before it's talking about here's the idea, here's the idea, here's the idea. Now it's saying like this. Essospheres b'umla, if you want to experience what we're saying, that is gachelas k'shur shalhavas k'shur b'gachelas, and you want to feel not tzchalas himself, you want to feel as if you're in it, kaviyachal, your experience is part of it, you have to first close your mouth. Bloim pichem ledaber, v'lipchem lahar, and stop your thoughts. So not only stop your mouth, quiet your thoughts. We'll see if you can stop your thoughts. But this is what it says. Lipchem lahar, you have to stop. Bloim pichem ledaber, v'lipchem lahar, v'im ratz levavcha, and if your heart is running, shul l'makim, return to the face. So there's a desire to speak, don't speak. The desire to think, don't think. If you have a desire, b'chlal, imratz levavcha, if you have like a passion, go back to makam. Go back to, we'll see what that is, but go back to space. Therefore it says in the chayes, on the chayes itself, which is the life force, ratz shuv, going back and returning. And this is the bris. The bris is the covenant of this whole project, which we said which means that we are participators, right? We said the difference between the bara and the bris was the difference between the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creation versus our participation in creation. The bris, the covenant, was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with us, is that if you want to experience this is what you have to do. Okay, now let's try to figure out what this actually means. Okay, first Ma'ar Mokim, I don't know the first, but it's a few Ma'ar Mokim. The first Ma'ar Mokim is, let's see where it is over here. It's Shar Yisoid HaChalakim on the Frodim. This is page 3. We'll read it. This is from Shekel HaKodesh. Shekel HaKodesh is a Sefer for a Moshe de Leon. So most of you don't have no idea who this person is. Okay, besides you. Moshe de Leon was a famous, not so famous actually in his lifetime, but was a Mekubal, a great Mekubal, that lived in the late 1200s in Spain, in de Leon. It's not Lyon, which is in France, but it's de Leon. Moshe de Leon is connected to the Zohar HaKadosh. What exactly his connection to the Zohar HaKadosh is a big story, but we'll leave it for that. But he's definitely connected to the Zohar HaKadosh. I am telling you, from my understanding, that it's not Shaykh that Moshe de Leon wrote the Sefer HaZohar. Not Shaykh. How can I say that? Not Shaykh. How can I say that? First of all, if you read the Zohar, you know that it's not Shaykh. That one person or any, it's Ruach HaKodesh. It's not a question. But also, the very simple reason is because we have his other Svarim. We actually have his Svarim. And one of them is called Shekel HaKodesh. And you'll read it, you'll see this is the Zohar. And the Shekel HaKodesh is different. It's not the same thing. But it's just interesting to see the way he writes. And there's a lot of Lashon HaZohar, or that type of language, because certainly that was the Kabbalah that was started percolating and that was the exciting Sefer at that time. It's fascinating because we're living 700 years later. To us, all from Yidden, the Sefer HaZohar is by the Rashbi, and it's Kaddish and Kodesh Kadashim, and you said before the Shulchan HaTorah writes. I mean, you don't need Shulchan HaTorah. The Beis Yosef, Yosef Cairo writes halachas based on the Zohar. When there's machlekes paskim, granted, whenever there's machlekes and there's a shikul adas from the paskim, and there's no clarity what could be done. The marshal like tefillin on Chol Hamoed, which some Rishonim say you should. It's a big machlekes Rishonim if you should or you shouldn't. And so, according to the Zohar, not only you shouldn't put on, but if you do, you're chayiv misa. The Zohar has very strong words. The person puts on tefillin on the Chol Hamoed. And today, I would say, Rov Minyan Ubinyan, I can't say give numbers. Most people don't put on tefillin. I mean, even if you go to Forshay, I don't know, if you find, there are some people that still put on, but it's very unusual. I know some people do. I'm not saying that no people don't, but it's less and less common today to keep putting. When I was younger, there were more people to put on tefillin. But there's a lot of things that the Beis Yosef quotes from the Zohar, which is halacha, which means that it's taking it not only serious as an idea, but it's actually paskins la halacha, different halachas. The Beis Yosef does that. That's just higher. The Beis Yosef has a lot of things that the Beis Yosef, because the Beis Yosef was actually a big mekubal. And he paskins a lot of things from Sefer Kabbalah. For example, Kiddush Levana. You ever heard this idea? The Shulchan brings it down, or Beis Yosef brings it down, that you should wait 7 days. L'chura, which is Minhag Ashkenaz, you shouldn't really wait because mitzvah aliyat chal tachtzera. You should do mitzvah right away. Why would you wait 7 days? The makar for that is Shari Oira from Yosef Gikatalia, who's a Talmud of Abalafia, and he says you have to wait till the Shleimus Levana for one sphere. Chesed Gemut Feres Malchus, and that's when you can do it. That's so the Beis Yosef rules according to Kabbalah. Anyways, the Zohar becomes a very
Friday night, which would be a top.
okay. That's already a minig. That's yeah. Okay, the Taz also has about that, which is if you put in the bottom of the top. That's also a lot connected to Ari. And also the Magen Avraham. If you want to really know. In Minig Ashkenaz, the reason why Ashkenaz even have a lot of Minhagi Kabbalah is because of the Magen Avraham. The Risi B'Ksavim, the Magen Avraham always writes, Risi B'Ksavim, that's really Kisveri. He doesn't want to say it's Kisveri, but that's Kisveri. So the Magen Avraham brings down many halachas al pi Kabbalah, and that's why he paskins. All Yidden, all Ashkenazi Yidden follow the Magen Avraham. So we have a lot of halachas at paskin. But that's already minhagin. That's already knowing. I'm talking about mamash halacha. Like this is halacha, this is paskins. Don't putting out film is a very serious thing. Say you're not putting out film. Okay. So Essospheres blima. So we'll read this quickly because it's a long piece. But the Essospheres blima is from Shekla Kodesh, and he writes like this. Essospheres blima. It's on page. It's right after the Sefer Zechariah. It's maybe the 5th page. It's a little different girsa. So Essospheres blima means not without anything, means stop speaking, stop thinking. That you can't really think about these thoughts. He says that every level that's higher, that's going to be called ayin. That's called ayin. For example, you can't really think about Hashem, about the source. So and there's no way to contextualize and to understand this. And therefore it's bechinas ayin. He says that's why anytime something is hidden from someone, the higher level is called ayin. When you say every single morning, it sounds like you're saying that there's no advantage to man. The advantage to man is ayin, is nothing. So he says, no, ayin means seichel. Because lagabe is something that you don't understand. That's something that's, for a behemoth, doesn't have an animal that doesn't understand intelligence, that's considered ayin. Because moisa min behemoth is that bechinas ayin. Ki yesh adam she'over al roisha avir hamasameach halev aryonis eini yedei mahu. Sometimes a person has like an avir, like a wind, or some type of I don't know, some type of, like, he becomes awash with some type of sensation, and he feels something. I think it's talking about intuition or some type of deeper knowing, but you can't quantify it. There's nothing really to hold on to it. So he says, look at the second paragraph. Really what you have to do is you have to let go of your thoughts. If you really want to experience this ayin, you have to let go of your thoughts. Stop speaking and let go of your thoughts. And if you go back to the end of this quote, to experience it, to experience the ayin, what we're talking about, to experience this chachma, this ayin, you have to let go of your thoughts. And then he says, I haven't seen this, but he says, V'amru ma'al chachma, chakema. Chachma comes from the word chakeh, wait. It's a new, that you have to wait. Chakema, let it come when it comes. Stop everything, wait. The Zohar says about keser, but he says about chachma. The chachma is chakeh. The word chachma means stop, ponder things, develop it, but ultimately at some point you have to stop and just let yavi mashi surrender. But intellectually surrender, not like an emotional surrender. There's some type of but how do you do this? Okay. Yeah, katalizeh. But what are we doing over here? Okay. Somehow, it's clearly from the Makaris and from what the Sefer Yetzirah is saying, is that there has to be some type of pausing, some type of stopping, and through that, there's something's going to come through. How do you do this, and what does it mean? So that's what we're going to try to understand. Let's start with the Rambam. The Rambam Pirush HaMishnayos says like this. This is the Mishnah that says, that Chassidim Rishonim Shah Achas, they waited an hour. In some Gersayis, L'chavim L'mokim, that they were to connect to the Mokim. Some Gersayis is Lavinu Shebashmayim. So what is Shoyim? What does the word Shoyim mean? That they would wait. What does the word Shoyim mean? Because Chassidim Rishonim were Shoyim Shah Achas, Kodim Tefillah. Then they were Spal, then they were Shoyim. They were Shoyim. What is the word Shoyim? What does a word mean? So the Rambam, the reason why I used this Gersa, because I looked at the previous Gersa, and you should just know that the Rambam didn't write in Lashon Kodesh, Pirush Mishnayos. So the other one didn't have such a good translation. But I want to use this translation because I think this is I don't know if it's more accurate, but I think this is what the Rambam's right. This is Machlekes Rishonim, Rabbeinu Yoina and others write, and it's also lahalacha. Like when it says that Ramah Paschas that before you start davening, it says, "Einol Nisbal." What you do is Galus Aboyer Shifus Adam. That a person has to think about the greatness of Hashem. This is before you're davening. Every person has to do this at least for a minute. Galus Aboyer Shifus Adam. Famous machlokes between the Bzusha and the Ben Lamelech, which one should be better? You know, this famous machlokes. They went to the Maggid. So there's two mahalchim. You think Galus Aboyer or Shifus Adam, but that's the first thing before you get into the davening. You have to think of the greatness of the Creator and the lowliness of man. In Rabbeinu Yoina, there's actually, he gives you a description of what you should think. That Shoim Sha'achas, that when they waited for a minute, it wasn't that they stopped, they thought something. There was a process. Either Galus Aboyer, Shifus Adam, they were thinking something. Before they start davening, there was some type of thought process. But the Rambam doesn't say that. The Rambam writes, Upirish, Shoyim means misakvim. Roitze lemer, she misakvim koidem atfila sha'achas. They would stop before they davened every single day, before they prayed. 1 hour. Kedei liyashev daitum, to settle their minds. Ulahashkit machshevoisam, to ashkata, to quiet their minds. Again, the Rambam didn't write this in Lashon Kodesh, so God, there's a letter from the Rambam. He gives the Rambam that the Rambam says that it's chaval that he didn't do this, that he regrets it. That it on the Pirush, on the Mishnayos, specific. No, the Moira was written because that's what he wanted, but in Aramaic, it's Hebrew Aramaic, right? So you know it's Aramaic. It's not Aramaic. It's Arabic. So it's Arabic with Hebrew letters. You ever saw when you have these Chassidish boys come home with notes that says the Rebbe, you know, you have to write in English. It says the Rebbe kicked me out of class. The Rebbe Daled Ayin Reish. Der Rebbe kicked Kuf Yud Tov. Did you have this issue? Okay, you don't remember this, but in my days that was a very popular thing. They used to write in English. You had to write an English note, but who knew how to write English? So you used to write an English note with. So that's called using. They used to use Hebrew oisias for Arabic. It's like a version of Arabic. So the Rambam wrote this later in this letter. The Rambam writes that he had charata, that he should have wrote everything in Lashon Kodesh, but he didn't. He wrote Pirush Mishnayos in Arabic. He wrote it when he was 21, in his 20s. So, but the lashon over here.
Did he look over the translation when it was translated?
Sure, of course. Yeah, but there's not these. Not these. This is not Kabach. This is Agada. I remember where I got this from. It's not from the Red Svarim. I know I have a Pirush Mishnayos. The Red Svarim, they had a different Girsa. This is the back of the Gemara. It's a regular Gemara. I took it on the back of the Shas. That was lahashkit machshavois. So what it means is you have to quiet the mind. There's idea of quieting the mind. Okay, and the same thing about quieting the mind is you find also in the Choyves Halavavis, Rabbi Chaim ibn Pekuda. Then in Shar Cheshbon Nefesh, in the last line, Rabbi Choyves Halavavis Chay Lifnei Sliboy Machshavos Ha'olam V'Tidosav Liyachid Liboy U'Mitzpoinei L'Lekim Levadei Beisahi. There's an idea of Lifnei Sliboy Machshavos Ha'olam, that you should empty your mind, your heart. Heart is obviously your mind in the Tanakh. You should empty your mind from all types of tirda, to quiet the mind before you start davening. This is how you enter into davening. Then le'achid levavi mitzpoinei l'Elokim. Then you're yachid levavi. How do you actually quiet the mind? Yeah, that's what I thought also. That's almost. Okay. The next thing is from Achsharas Avrechem, from the PSATs. Talking about Ashkot, you have to obviously bring it down. The Heilige PSATs. So the PSATs writes on Maisa that there's a story, brings on Achsharas Avrechem. What's the story? There was a big person that came to the city. Doesn't say who this person was, what was the situation. Some great person. Everyone knew about him. Great teacher. And the Talmidim Baal Shem asked the Baal Shem HaKadosh, how do we know if this person is a correct teacher or not? Because they wanted to figure him out. He said, asked him if he has a remedy to clear your mind, to become crystal clear. Im yitel meitzen kazois as yedu shemeduma ishaza. Shemeduma ishaza. If you know, you know he's a liar. Kiven she'ein eitzel the part legam mem rak avoid tmidis kol yemei chai veish kol echav av matzavi. Avoid tmidis as yikar kol eitzel tachlis mitzis other boy. After a person will struggle always in their thoughts, and he brings the Tanya, Perek Chav Zayin, that only tzaddikim gemurim won't have hearer, and every other person has to do is kafi, is hapcha, the avoid of the beinani, the struggler. So he says, first of all, you should know that when you're talking about ashkata, you should know we're not talking about lahashkit machshavoisav, that it becomes completely clear and clean, that you have that's your mind is blank. It's possible, by the way, it is possible, but very unlikely. The Maggid talks about how that it could be done, but the Piyasetza, Kiyudur, the Piyasetza also was a Malabed Tinoikis, and he was talking practically to young Bachim, and this is the practical thing is quiet the onrush of thoughts. That's the whole Derech HaMelech, the whole Ashkata is to quiet the onrush of thoughts. In Derech HaMelech, in Bereshis, he writes a beautiful thing. He writes that every person has a divine aspect within themselves. So what's Shoyim Sha'achas? That they would wait for 1 hour. We said that the Rambam says Shoyim Sha'achas, they would wait for an hour, is lahashkit machshavaisim, is to quiet the mind. Beloim pichel medaber v'libcha milahar, to quiet. What would happen? Bemis ki b'chol ish Yisrael b'chol yonim chelik lekus. Rak sha'adam master zois machshavaisim v'rtzoynos v'chol yonim. A person has really a spark of divinity, a part of holiness, that's of lekus, that's really in their soul. But a person has tons of worries and thoughts and bullim in their mind. Af mida kedusha b'yir comes galz v'aydein yon near like a year shelo yer ish. Be'imo yodem mamid mafsig al shah es kol shetach machshavoysev v'tznoysev. A person would stop for a moment, without anything, just stop, pause, stop all the craziness going on in your mind. The divinity within a person's self will shine. He says the klippa that you're having. This is a reina Torah's Baal Shem. The Baal Shem, when the Ari and all the Mekabalim speak about the klippas and klippa and the davening, you have to fight with klippa. The Baal Shem writes, you should know what klippa is. It's machshava zaras. That's what klippa is. It's not other. It's not demonic negative forces that are flying and this is the kind of catch you. It's your own thoughts. And then when a person davens with clarity, the more clarity it is, the more something becomes revealed. And when a person has full clarity, then it will be a kusnir b'lei levush. Because a person is always following their thoughts. How are you going to earn a living? How a person is going to give me honor? What a person is going to do? Therefore, our mind is always cluttered, and there's no possibility for the deepest part of ourselves to come to shine through. What is shoyim? What does it mean to daven? It means before you start davening, you want to experience the Essospheres. You want to experience divinity. You want to experience Ein Sof. Shoyim. Then the Tahira, which is Madrega of Atzilus. Yeah, Aviyah Tahira. So Aviyah Tahira, which is Tahira means Shamash Shatbi Tahira, which is Atzilus. Brasi Yitzat and Afachnabi is B'Yitzia Asiyah. You really love Adam. So that's Atzilus Shaloi Tizgaloi. This will be revealing of the Atzilus of the person. Just a note. What we're saying is like this: that there's Atzilus within a person, which is the Madrega of Ayin, the Madrega of Ein Sof. There's something that's higher. There's something that's bothering us, and we're stuck in this repetitive narratives and repetitive stupidities, and it's holding us back to actually have some clarity, some connection to something that's higher, to Ein Sof, to Ayin of Atzilus. And he says, if you quiet the mind, this is what's going to happen. Something's going to shine through from a deeper place, and you're going to have this. So it's not just you're going to have clarity in the mind. You're going to feel elated. You're going to be connected to something that's Ein Sofius. Now, if you read this, it's very, very benduyak that he writes Atzilus Shaloi. He writes Atzilus Shaloi. It's very important why he writes this word. It's a very chassidish word. Again, it's not found in Kisar such language, but in Torah Chassidus it's found all places. It's very important because it's saying Atzilus Shaloi. It means his Atzilus. What that means is like this: Atzilus is the place of Ayin. That's the place of Dveikus. That's the place where a person experiences the oneness. It's Iyu v'chayei echad, Iyu v'gamei echad. It's a place where where I or Tzaddik Someone that's living on a higher level of madrega is a person that lives on a madrega of atzilus, means their body, their gashmis, their kalim, is not a steer to the oir. It's not a contradiction to the oir. And what they're experiencing, mostly what they're experiencing is oir. They're experiencing light. They're experiencing connection. They're experiencing yichud. But atzilus exists within every world. So let's say a person, for example, is a grub yung. I don't know how to translate a grub yung, but as a person is a very coarse individual, never worked on himself, never did anything in their life. And they're saying, okay, so all I need to do to get tatzilus is, what do I need to do? I need to quiet my mind, and my neshama will shine through, and I'll get to a level of atzilus. I'll be a tzaddik. I'll be like the highest level of tzaddik. The answer is, the truth of this is that it's not, it's 90% true, not 100% true. Because what the person is reaching is that tzilus within asiya. Every person exists within a certain world. The natural place that a person is without any type of inner work that a person does in their life, any type of avodah, is you're in the world of asiya. That's, you're dropped into the world of asiya, which is the place of the ego and your body and your desires. That's the place you are. If you never worked on yourself, even on a level of breaking your desires of your body, for example, if you never never worked on yourself on a physical level, just because every time you're in a mood to eat, you eat, and anytime you're in a mood to do anything else, just because your body wants you to do it immediately, you don't have any self-control. Instinctual, if you're living in that level of instinctual. So you are lodged in the world of asiya. You're stuck in this world of asiya. If you quiet the mind, and you're mashkit machshavoisav, what's going to happen is you're going to have an atzilus, an ayin experience of atzilus in asiya. The atzilus of asiya will become revealed to you. If you're a person that already works on yourself on some level, and because you worked on yourself, now you're in the world of Yetzirah, right? And if you work in the world of Yetzirah, if you worked on yourself, so if the person works on himself in the Olam Asiya, then the experience that he's going to get is the ayin of Olam Yetzirah. Right? He's going to evolve out of the world of Asiya. So therefore, what he's going to experience is something higher, which is going to be the ayin from the higher madrega. If you don't, you get the ayin of Asiya. If you work on your emotional state, which is Olam Yetzirah, which means you're compassion and you're not makbid and you're generous with your emotions and you're whatever. All the Chazal say that a person should be a correct person in their midas, right? If you're correct, so it means you worked yourself out in the world of Yetzirah. Then when you're experiencing ayin, you're experiencing the ayin of Olam Abriya. If you're a person that not only are you worked out on a physical level, but also on an emotional level, but also on an intellectual level, which means that your mind is generally filled with proper thoughts and there's no bittul Torah, and your mind that has good thoughts continuously, and you're not thinking nonsense. So then when you're having an experience, you're having an experience of the ayin of Olam Atzilus. That's what it's saying. In other words, every madrega you're reaching a higher madrega of the Atzilus Shem Nafshe. In Olam Abriya, yeah. Correct.
Okay, so it's
there's a difference between a saga. It's a little different because if here he's talking about a tzad netzach v'hoid, he's talking about that's one nevuah. It's a different thing. So it's not mamish the same thing. I hear, but the ayin, what you're experiencing in Bria of Olam Atzilus is really the yesh of Olam Atzilus. Legaba you it's ayin. In other words, for your bria, the experience that's beyond you. We actually learned this right from the Shekel HaKodesh, that anything that's beyond you is called ayin. The Pardes actually writes this. The Pardes writes, why do we call yesh ma'ayin? Why do we say the bria is yesh ma'ayin? Why it doesn't make any sense? Why do you call it from nothing? It's from everything. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says yesh ma'ayin legaba hagasenu. In our perception, we call that ayin. If it's beyond this, we call it ayin. So when the person of bria works himself out in the world of bria and his experience, his experience really is the ayin, what he calls higher. But it's not the ayin of, it's not the keser of Olam Atzilus. It's the malchus of Olam Atzilus. So it's a little lower. Okay. So this is the nekuda. So what we're saying is that in order for us to experience something, we need to quiet ourselves. Obviously, quiet our speech. That's very simple how to do this. But we also have to quiet the inner noise that's happening. the statics that are happening in the machshava. The more we quiet this static, the more we're able to enter into a higher place. What's the higher place? So here goes, Imratz levavcha shuv lecha. Imratz levavcha shuv lecha. So Imratz levavcha shuv lemakim, which is different size, that is like this. There is makim. The last Mara makim is from Tikkun Zohar where he says, it's a famous thing, but it comes from Tikkun Zohar, that the Tikkun Zohar writes that the word makim, which is 186, is the milui of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The fullness of Yud Kei Vav Kei of the name of Hashem is actually makim. How do you get there? So he says like, everyone says, I am a Makom Kavod Laritze. Vashkan Kol Gematria Makim. The chicken Kigavna Da. Yud Es Zimden Mea. 10 times 10 is 100. So it's Yud. Hey Chamish Zimden Esim Chamish. 5 times 5 is 25. Vav Shitten Zimden Tossen V'Shiz. 6 times 6 is 36. Hey Chamish Zimden Esim Chamish. Gematria Makim. Va'aleya Malchaya Baruch Kvod Hashem Mim Koimoi. The Makim is the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Okay, let's go back. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the name of HaKadosh Baruch. That's the Shem HaMefarish. So the Shem HaMefarish is, we brought down, I don't remember which year, but we brought down recently, that the Hasidic Ashkenaz were the first ones to reveal this, Yehuda Chassid and Lezer Gemaiza, that the Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's also brought down here. I think it was here.
The second
No, it's brought down here. That Lezer Gemaiza writes it over here. I just saw it. A few minutes ago. That Shem Makim, the Makim, the Yud Kei Vav Kei is Hoya Hoya V'Yeh. Now what is Yud Kei Vav Kei? Yud Kei Vav Kei means past, present, future, time. Right? Hoya, past. Hoya, present. Yeh, because B'Yamahu Yeh Hashem Echad Yishmei Echad. So today we have Yud Kei Vav and a Hey. B'Yamahu Yeh Hashem Echad, the Yud Hey, Yud and Hey. Not Yud Kei Vav Kei. B'Yamahu Yeh will be Shmei. B'Yamahu Yeh Hashem Echad. That the Yud Kei, the Vav will be Oila. The Vav will become higher. So then you get, instead of Hoiva instead of Hoiva, you get Yeh, which means future. So Yud Kei Vav Kei actually is the 4 letters of Yeh. Okay? So what does it mean? It means that Yud Kei Vav Kei is beyond time, past, present, and future. That's simple, right? And that's Beis Yosef actually brings down Lalacha. That's what you have to mechaber when you say the bracha, Baruch Hashem. Hashem is Hoya V'Yeh. Okay. Yud Kei Vav Kei is also Yud, the letter Yud, Hoiva. Right? What do you do when you have the Yud in a present in something? When you have Kocha, it's also from in the Shaykh Emunah. When you have Kocha Asa Iyav or Kocha Yasa Iyav. What's the difference in Asa? Asa means did. Yasa means he's continuously doing. What is the Yud? Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud, Hey, and a Vav and a Hey, what does it mean? The Yud, the ever unfolding Hoiva, present. So the immediacy of the now, the ever unfolding present, which holds within it the Hoiva V'Yeh, which holds in the past, present, and future. Because the space, the time conception that holds, going back, there's the Oimek Roim, Oimek Tachas. There's Oimek Achris, Oimek Reishis. Means there's the Oimek in each direction. What is holding the past and the future? What time conception holds the past and the future now? Correct. The ever unfolding Hoiva is all the past and all the potential future. That's in the world of Zman. Comes the Tikkun Zohar and says that's also in the world of Makim. What is the ultimate expression of Makim here? So when Vayifka B'Makim, let's go back to Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov B'Makim, because this is very tied into the whole story of Yaakov. When Yaakov Avinu is Vayifka B'Makim, Kliyaka writes over there, when he wakes up, he says it's 3 times B'Makim. So he says 3 Beit Mikdash, but it's actually, you could say also differently. Vayifka B'Makim, he encounters Vayifka B'Makim, in the space. What's the space? So the space is the space, because the only space there is the space. That's the Nakuda of all space, which is the Makom HaMikdash. That's the deepest place of Nakuda of all space, which is the Evan Shasiyah, correct. The Vayifka B'Makim in this time, and B'Makim is also Gematria of Yaakov. It's 186 with the 4 Isis. So Yaakov is Gematria Makim. So that's why it says Achin Yashal Kim Makim Azeh. Achin is Ari Kriv Nasher. Anoichi Lo Yadaiti is is Arik Kruv Nesher Yaakov, which is the fourth Regel Makava, which is when Yaakov experienced that time, he experiences the essence or the immediacy of Makim. In this right now, in this moment, me. Which means, what does he see? He sees Malachim Oilim V'Yordem B'Lei. Now Malachim Oilim V'Yordem B'Lei is Ratz V'Shoiv. V'Hine Hashem Nitzav Olav, but then there's something that's holding the space of the Ratz V'Shoiv. There's a Ratz V'Shoiv that's moving back and forth. There's a back and forth, and there's Oimik and Oimik, and there's something, but then there's something that's holding the space. What's HaKadosh Baruch Kaviyachal in this image? Nitzav Olav, that's there, it's always. That's the B'Makim. You can get caught in the past and get caught in the future, but the only thing is actually happening right now. Where's that place to be? Right here. So when it's saying on a very deep level, when it's saying is stop running, stop jumping, stop being here and there, just be right here, right now, fully present, and you're going to have the ultimate connection with the Ein Sof. How do you? That's the nichas abris. That's the oimik of this idea. How do you do this? How do you do this in tefillah? So I don't have a good answer to this. I mean, I have an answer. I mean, this is experiential, right? Everyone understands what we have to do, right? So yeah, more or less. But how do you do this conceptually in the mind? So there's a very fascinating Osher from the PSS where he tied us something very very radical, but very, very deep. There's a Yedua. I mean, it's very famously, the Rambam went on a crusade. He wrote a whole Moira against this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a goof. You're not allowed to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a goof. God forbid to say that Hashem has a tzir of the body. Not only that, you're not allowed to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a midah b'chal, right? Any attributes. What is the Ravid right? And the Rambam says that if someone says HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a goof, he's a min. So comes along the Ravid and says, there were greater and wiser people that said that you're not. It doesn't mean the Ravid held. You have to understand, the Ravid is not saying that I hold that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a goof. He's just saying you can't call someone a min if someone's a simpleton. Yes, exactly. That's Nebuch B'Keres Eichel B'Keres. Chaim. That's what you're talking about. Oh, okay. Chaim once said that when after the Rambam wrote that, and the person's and Nebuch B'Keres is Eichel B'Keres. Okay, that's something else. But let's go before the Rambam. Okay, so the Rambam, the Ravid that says you can't call a person a min. Why? Why can't call a person a min? Because a person reads in the Torah that Eina Hashem, Yad Hashem, and the person is a simpleton. He says, I don't know. That's what it says. You're going to call the person a min because he doesn't know that Dibra Torah Kolosh B'nei Adam. He doesn't know this. He's not a sophisticated person. It's wrong, but it's not a min. Comes along the Bnei Machshav Tov, the PSS, and says like this: a person's trying to daven. This is really the issue. When you're trying to daven, some people, again, we'll go back to the conversation we said before. Some people are shaykh, are possibly able to clear the mind completely and fully be present. What that is, we'll talk for another time. But some people can't. It's much harder. They're like they go to the like the Baal Shem Tov says. They go and you can't get away from machshav. You can't get away from your thoughts. So what do you have? So you're starting to daven Shemona Esrei. You're starting to daven, and you want to connect to the Ein Sof. That's what you want to do, right? You want to connect to the thing. You don't want to connect to Elav Elayim B'Daisav. You don't want to connect to the goof. You want to connect Elav. I want to daven to you. I want to be connected to you. Baruch Ato, to you. And then, but what do you do with your mind? What's happening in your left brain? What's happening with the mind? Now, if you're davening, and this is very interesting. If you're davening, we spoke about this a few times. If you're davening in Kavanas Ari or Kavanas Arashash, there's no place for Machshavas Zoros. I mean, if you're busy just following the pages, it's impossible. You can't. They're shameless. You're just busy. So your mind is filled. It's impossible to have Machshavas Zoros if you're really trying to read it, and you're trying to have to also daven with the minutes. It's not even shayach. So that's why in Kisvei Ari, there's very little conversation about Machshavas Zoros. Because there's no academic Machshavas Zoros. If someone tells you, I'm in the middle of learning a sugya in Baba Basra and I have Machshavas, why would you have Machshavas Zoros in the middle of Sugya Baba Basra? This doesn't happen. Where does it happen? Shemona Esrei. That's the problem. Shemona Esrei, you get there, what do you think? All of a sudden, your mind goes to all different places. So that's, okay, if you do, in Torah Baal Shem, which the main idea is to daven with passion, to daven with, Boyla Teva, to enter into the words and to be fully present there. That's where the complication becomes of machshav. What do you do actually with your thought process? Comes along the PSS and times like this.
So kivich also the style shum the mus vitzir rakidi yeshli shani yudei shayman even what idea below shul below machshav nu machshav yefshel lisar imla bisar satzmo. So he says, but it doesn't even work. And how do you want to arouse emotions? You want to feel close. You need some type of thought in your head. So he writes on the left column like this. L'chena ish b'matzah kazeh bereishis gidol. He doesn't say this. You should do this always. Bereishis gidol, in the beginning of your development, your journey. Yismoich al atzmei l'aravid. You should be soymech das aravid. You should rely on the opinion of the Ravid. Shemeshiv al Rambam. So he says, the truth is, I know that it's not true. But I'm a physical person. I need something. So and then kashayaze lo yeshem izbarach v'tzchazek mashafte v'tochel achshe v'Hashem machshav chazak v'nekiya v'dimyon nitzes nevu yizgaloi oda tmun atzir gufni azeh v'meli yizbatlo. He says that if you really secure this vision, eventually the vision will disappear and you'll be connected to the Ein Sof.
I think you put it as Talmidim, so the measure.
Yeah, b'nei Moshav Tari put it. Huh? So yeah. So he doesn't say this clearly, but I think the way to do this is as follows. Is imagine, again, you can do whatever you want. This is my conjecture. Imagine if you want to daven and you want to hold on to something. There's something, okay, you can think of a melech sitting a king, but I don't know if to the modern man standing in front of a king means anything. What does it mean to stand in front of a king? It's mengonished. I mean, who's a king? It doesn't evoke any awe or wonder. It doesn't know anything. King Melech Malcham Malachim doesn't really work in our language. It doesn't really work. It doesn't work in our sensation. If you're more abstract and you so imagine there's like this is very. I'll tell you why it's easy to be done because the Piaseczna wants this image to fade, right? He doesn't want you to hold on to the image the whole davening. So use the imagery that what Sefer Yetzirah is doing, which is a fire. Imagine there's a fire, okay? However you imagine there's a fire, some type of like burning flame or fire, or like you see a candle, something that's like lit, and you feel warmth, and you feel closeness, and you feel this is like the source of all life, and this is giving chayes to the whole world. But you can see a flame, right? You can imagine this. You're seeing something in front of your eyes. Your machshava is filled with this. It burns out all other imagery. It's only that image is in your mind. As you're holding the machshava of this, it'll disappear on its own. It may come back in a second, because that's the nature of the things. So it may come back in a second. But the moment it implodes and it disappears, you got it. That's it. That's it. That moment. That's shulam makom. That's when you get it. So if you're having difficulty, this is bloim pichel odaver. And libcham lahar, you want to get to that place of the makim. You want to vayifka makim. You want to really encounter the fullness of the fullness, which means the fullness of all time, all space, all being, everything of me in this moment. Maybe put up this image in front of your head, beginning of Shemasa. Maybe don't start that. Maybe do Shaim Shachas. Maybe do right before. Sit with it for a moment. It'll disappear, and then you can start davening. That's my own ara for this idea.
I always understand the attraction of Avodah Zarah was this. It's so difficult to worship a non-tangible God.
I just want to answer this question because it's a very important thing. Tzaddik also writes, it's more to give art. We're talking over here, and it's strong that Tzipia, the idea of seeing, has to be a real muchshis, right? It should be like a seeing with chush. And that's nevuah, right? That's part of prophecy. So the Gemara says that it's batal avodah zarah. They killed off it's an avodah zarah they killed off. The Gra writes, and others form write, that the death of avodah zarah, which is antiknas nagdol, that's one of the things that they did, is the same time that nevuah is batal. That avodah zarah was his batal b'shamas mu, which means we don't have any longer prophecy, and therefore there's no longer avodah zarah. So he says like this: there's two. The first two mitzvahs of the Torah of Aseres Adiris, Alecha Hashem, Elohim Elokim Acherim, are talking to two types of people, which is like the biblical person, the person that lived in Zman HaNevuah, the prophecy, which is Zman HaNevuah was Kaflayim K'Yetzim Mitzrayim. So the time of the prophets was not one prophet. There were millions of prophets, and Medrash Hashirim writes that there was for every prophet there were a prophetess. There was a Navi and a Neviah. So you talk about 2.5 million Nevi'im. These are already Nevi'im. Then there's Bnei Nevi'im, which are the children of prophets. So you talk about a generation of people that were raised in prophecy. So there's two things. Anech Hashem Lekecha means Asher Etzeichem Eretz Mitzrayim. So it's personal and it's muchshis. Something happened. Asher Etzeichem Eretz Mitzrayim. Right. Lo Yukol Machachem Apona is that there shouldn't be idol worship. He says for idol worship, there should right idol worship, which means like this. For the people that lived in the time of Nevuah, because they had the chush of Koyachem Adama so strong, everyone understood and lived that the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the presence of the divine, is here. It's in the tree, it's in the mountain, it's in the water. Now, what was the allure of Avodah Zarah? The allure of Avodah Zarah was that each individual thing is its force. That the force that's in the water is the force in this water. And there's like the Avodah Zarah in the water. Yeah, if you'll see in Avodah Zarah where it speaks about that. Yeah, someone bows down to the water. There was Avodah Baharim. There was the deities in the mountains, and each one. So the Isra of the Torah is talking to the man that the Torah is talking to is the person that already recognized the immanence of God in everything. Someone that already feels the chush in his chushim, he feels everything, right? And in the place of the chushim, he's saying, don't have any, recognize only one. To modern man, who doesn't have the koyach HaMadama, unfortunately, at least not in the same place that we had in the koyach HaNevuah, and that's, by the way, the whole thing of Achsharos and Reichem, in the beginning, he writes that the whole project of the Torah of Baal Shem, Torah of Chassidus, was to bring Nevuah back, to train people to the place of Nevuah, which is koyach HaDimni. To create mamish nevi, but he says nevuah to have inner type of nevuah, which is through the koyach HaMadama. That's what Chassidus is full of imagination and all that whole Torah. To the person that's using tvuna, the intellectual, right? To him, you have to say because the intellectual ends up worshiping the god of science or the god of Aristotle, like the Kuzi writes. Not like Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, like Aristotle. Why? Because it's a philosophical construct. Okay, God is infinite, one, all these types of words, but it has nothing to do with me. I don't have a personal worship. I don't have a personal relationship. That's that's that took you out of Egypt. To know that, so to the refuah or the medicine of that for that person is to tell you that's the biggest belief you have to have. It took you out of Egypt. You have a personal relationship and it's connected to you. To the generation that lived in a place in Nevuah where everything was alive. Divinity was not the question. The question is if there's one or many. There was a pluralistic universe or one universe or monotheism. But everyone believed that there's a force. Everyone felt it, experienced it. To that person, it said, there shouldn't be any idol worships. So that now, there's the Lakim al-Khair, you see this very clearly, that in this generation, the last few years, the biggest thing that's challenging a lot of Frum Yidden today is the Lakim al-Khair. Is the Lakim al-Khair. Not, I should say, every Yid believes they have a personal relationship with God. Every mom today, every Yid's a mom, but even the people that say they believe and feel they believe and experience believe, every mom believes that Hashem is connected to me and have a personal relationship. That's clear. The problem is it became so intimate and so personal that it became Nalakim Acher. And that's what we're struggling now with all the other klippas that we have to destroy. All right. Oh, okay, so fine. But I have to done mincha. I ain't done my mincha. Who's that? It's someone on the phone? You tell him. You try to get done my. Okay, let's done my. You tell him in a few minutes.
I'll take off the cover name.
Oh, yeah.